I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds. And I'll say it to him to his face, and I've told him on the phone, and I'll tell him on the air again. I don't want to step in it, but I firmly disagree with Jason last week. I'm like, you want him cut. Why do you want him cut? You want him cut because you're tired of seeing people say nasty things to you on the internet? Do you want him cut because it's hard to cover him? Do you want him cut because when you say you don't think he's a good quarterback, that he's got a big fan base and they go after you for it? Is that why you want him cut? Because wanting a guy cut from a team is a very strong thing to.
Ken Carman is going completely all in on Jason Lloyd, and what's happening right now has exploded into one of the most intense arguments in Cleveland sports media. Carman is holding nothing back over Lloyd's recent comments about Shedeur Sanders, especially the moment he openly suggested that the Browns should have him cut. This is no small back and forth or friendly media clash. This has turned into a full-scale showdown, and Browns fans everywhere are locked in and paying attention. Ken Carman made one thing painfully clear. Jason Lloyd crossed a serious line. Why does it matter so much? Because calling for a player to be cut is one of the strongest things you can say in sports media. That's not a throwaway comment you make on a radio show or casually type into a column. When you say a player should be removed, you're basically saying that player brings zero value to the team at all. Carman stated firmly that he does not respect what Jason Lloyd is doing here. And as he explained his stance, you could clearly hear the frustration and letdown in his voice, while he broke down exactly why Lloyd's approach is causing so much backlash.
Like some of the stuff I read over the weekend, I thought it was insane. Insane. I told you guys a million times over.
The Jason Lloyd situation is heating up fast, and now he's being called out by fellow media voices, fans, and analysts from all sides. But before this spiraled into chaos, you have to rewind and understand where it really began, because this didn't come out of nowhere. It started with a single statement from Jason Lloyd, claiming that Shedeur Sanders is not the solution at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Lloyd wasn't just unsure or raising questions. He sounded completely locked in, fully convinced that Shedeur Sanders has no chance to succeed in Cleveland, and the way he pushed that opinion made it impossible to ignore. The negativity towards Shedeur came through clearly in his tone and choice of words. This wasn't thoughtful breakdown or balanced critique. It didn't feel fair. It felt personal, and Browns fans noticed it instantly.
Doesn't make tight window throws. He doesn't throw guys open. This is not the answer.
Here's where the situation takes a serious turn. Even though it was still the middle of the season and Shedeur Sanders struggled in one single game, Jason Lloyd wasted no time using that moment to push his claim that Shedeur was not the guy. He treated that one rough outing as proof of everything he already believed. It wasn't a fresh take. It wasn't a fair reset. It was confirmation bias in real time. But then something happened that Lloyd likely didn't see coming. Shedeur Sanders responded in the biggest way possible. He delivered a statement performance, shut down the noise, played outstanding football, and showed exactly why so many people believed in his upside. Suddenly, Lloyd was forced to walk things back, and for someone who had been so loud and so confident in his criticism, that moment had to hurt. You would expect that after being proven wrong, that clearly Lloyd might adjust his tone or at least admit he pushed things too far early on, but that's not what happened. When the season wrapped up, Jason Lloyd went right back to criticizing Shedeur Sanders. And this is the key issue that Ken Carman and others have highlighted. The criticism wasn't about performance. Shedeur actually played solid football when given chances. He showed progress, toughness, and the ability to compete at a high level. The numbers supported it, and most unbiased viewers could see real development toward becoming a legitimate NFL quarterback. So if the play wasn't the problem, what was Lloyd attacking? He started pointing fingers at Shedeur's throwing style, and even his posture. Let that sink in for a moment. We're now breaking down posture. At that point, Lloyd appeared to be searching for anything, no matter how small, to back up his original claim that Sanders wasn't the answer. What started as football analysis slowly turned into what many fans now see as a personal grudge against a young quarterback just trying to prove himself in the league.
He still doesn't know what he's looking at. He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. This isn't me saying this. I'm not an NFL. I've never claimed to be an NFL coach. This is people in that building will tell me he still doesn't know how to flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. He doesn't know what he's looking.
The entire Browns fan base has turned up the heat on Jason Lloyd for calling out Shedeur Sanders this way, and the backlash has been overwhelming. Social media has been absolutely ruthless. Fans have not let up for a second, blasting Lloyd over his tone, his clear bias, and what many believe is unfairly singling out a player who has done nothing to earn this level of criticism or negativity. Browns fans are known for their passion, and when they believe one of their own is being treated unjustly, they speak up loudly and without hesitation. Ken Carman Carman has been watching all of this closely, and he's reached some major conclusions about what's really behind Jason Lloyd's actions. Carman stated that Lloyd made the extreme comment about cutting Shedeur because every time Lloyd criticizes him, the Shedeur Sanders fan base comes after him aggressively. It's turned into a repeating pattern. Lloyd makes a negative comment. Shedeur's supporters fire back hard. Then Lloyd responds by doubling down with an even stronger take. Carman also pointed out another critical detail that adds fuel to this fire. According to him, Jason Lloyd personally does not like Shedeur Sanders, and that personal feeling plays a role in everything we're seeing unfold right now.
I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds.
But this is the moment where Ken Carman truly landed his strongest point, and it sits at the center of his argument against Jason Lloyd. Carman made it clear that personal feelings and online backlash do not justify what Lloyd did. Just because Lloyd doesn't like Shedeur Sanders, and just because Shedeur's fan base pushes back every time he speaks negatively, that still does not give him the right to call on the Browns to cut him. Why not? Because, as Carman explained so directly, these are not Jason Lloyd's Browns. This team belongs to the fans. It belongs to Cleveland. Lloyd is a media member who covers the team, but he doesn't own it. He doesn't run it. And he certainly doesn't get to decide who stays or who gets removed from the roster. Ken Carman then laid out the only situation where cutting Shedeur Sanders would actually make sense. The only valid reason would be if Shedeur were a bad teammate. If he caused locker room issues, hurt team chemistry, acted selfishly, or created division inside the organization, then yes, moving on could be justified. But here's the reality that anyone familiar with Shedeur Sanders already knows. He is not that kind of player. Everything about him points in the opposite direction. Shedeur is widely seen as a true professional, someone who works hard, puts the team first, and earns respect inside the locker room. His teammates trust him, support him, and rally around him, and that fact completely undercuts the argument Jason Lloyd tried to make.
You don't do anything for that. If you want him cut from the team, it should be because he's a detriment to the actual team. Now, I don't know all the story. Maybe we'll find out that he's a terrible teammate. I don't think we will. But if you found out a guy was a terrible teammate and not that good, that's a reason to cut the guy. Just because we're bickering amongst each other about a quarterback doesn't mean the guy should be cut.
So if Shedeur Sanders isn't a locker room problem, if he's played reasonably well when given chances, and if he's clearly shown signs that he can grow into a solid NFL quarterback, then what exactly is the reason to cut him? And more importantly, why is Jason Lloyd pushing so hard for that outcome? What's the real explanation beyond Lloyd's personal dislike and his ongoing frustration with Shedeur's supporters? This is where Ken Carman directly calls Lloyd out for allowing emotion and bias to replace what should be clear, fair football analysis. Carman stated without hesitation that Jason Lloyd said something unacceptable. This isn't just a normal disagreement over talent or upside. Carman made it clear that Lloyd crossed a serious line, went too far, and made comments that were both inappropriate and unprofessional. When a respected voice like Ken Carman speaks this strongly against another media figure, it carries real weight. It signals that Lloyd's actions have reached a level where they can't simply be brushed off as routine sports debate. And Carman didn't stop there. He went even further, saying that Jason Lloyd has completely lost perspective because of how much he dislikes Shedeur Sanders. Let that sink in. Carman is essentially arguing that Lloyd's judgment has been so clouded by personal feelings that he can no longer think clearly or objectively about the situation. His dislike for the player, combined with his anger toward the fan base, has pushed him into making claims that don't align with football logic, don't serve the fans, and add nothing positive to the conversation surrounding the Cleveland Browns.
And I'll say it to him to his face, and I've told him on the phone, and I'll tell him on the air again.
This entire situation brings up some serious questions about the role of media members who cover sports teams. Where is the line between honest criticism and straight-up targeting? At what point does analysis stop being professional and turn into something personal? How much should a media figure's personal feelings ever shape what they say publicly? And what responsibility do they actually owe to the fans and the players they cover? Ken Carman is arguing that Jason Lloyd has failed on every one of those levels. According to Carman, Lloyd allowed his personal bias to overpower his professional duty, and his demand that the Browns cut Shedeur Sanders is the clearest proof of just how far he's drifted away from real sports journalism. Browns fans are watching all of this closely because it goes beyond one player or one argument. It touches on how their team is covered, how players are treated, and who gets to shape the narrative about the franchise's future. And the fan base has made its stance very clear. They are standing with Ken Carman, believing that Jason Lloyd crossed the line, went too far, and deserved to be publicly called out for it.